Okay, what I got here is a brown puffball. This is different than the white puffball in as it doesn't get as large. The white puffballs will get as big as a soccer ball. These do not get that big, and you want to catch these a little bit early because if they start to turn yellow inside, even slightly yellow, it's really too late to eat them because they're starting to produce spores. But I've already cut this one open. You can see it's nice and white inside. Now there's another puffball that looks a lot like this, and you'll know it's not immediately when you cut it open because it's dark purple, almost black inside. I found one yesterday. I wish I would have taken a picture of it for comparison, but there's no mistaking it. It's almost black inside. So you can see this is kind of spongy. It's like a marshmallow almost, maybe a little firmer than a marshmallow, but not much. And it has no gills. It's just pure white flesh. There's no stem on the bottom. This particular variety is brown on the outside, and the giant puffballs are white. But this is a really good mushroom. It's a little different than most mushrooms, as you know, your first instinct with mushrooms is to saute them in butter. You really wouldn't want to do that with this mushroom because it's so spongy. It'll suck up all that butter and oil right into the mushroom, and they just get soggy. So these are much better treated like an eggplant. Same exact process in an egg wash with breading. That's really the best way to eat them. When you get the giant puffballs, that are really huge. They're like basketball size. You can actually cut those into slices and dry them in the oven till they're crispy and use them for a pizza crust. And again, you don't want to use too much sauce when you start making your pizza because they'll get soggy again. But you can put sauce on it, just don't overdo it. And it's a really interesting pizza crust for the large puffballs, which are also at this time of year, although I never can find them. I used to find them in Wisconsin all the time, but I can't seem to find them in Kentucky, although other people do. But I'm going to cook these up. I'm going to do a little video here on how to prepare these. And because like I said, it's a little different than most mushrooms. You don't want to use a lot of oil. You don't want to use a lot of butter because they'll just get soggy. So we'll do that next. Okay, so I've got these ready to fry up now. So we're just going to prepare these. We got the sliced mushrooms about 1/4 inch thick, a little bit of Dale's sauce, which is basically Worcestershire, but I like Dale's sauce better, some breadcrumbs, and egg whites for egg wash. So although I don't like to get the mushrooms too wet, I am going to brush a little bit of the Dale's sauce on each one, just enough to give it some flavor. I don't want to put a lot on there. But it is a really good little extra flavor on the mushrooms. They're pretty strong mushrooms as far as the flavor goes, so they can handle this. A more delicate flavor you probably wouldn't want to do this with because it's just going to bury the mushroom flavor completely. But for these, it's fine. If I wasn't going to use these right away, there are two different ways really you can preserve mushrooms. You can either dry them or freeze them. Each works pretty well for this, but there's some disadvantages to both. If you dry them, you got to get them 100% dry, and if you don't, you're going to get mold on your mushrooms, which is basically a mushroom eating a mushroom. But if you get them nice and dry, they do reconstitute pretty well, and it does actually intensify the flavor a little bit when you dry these. The other option is to freeze them. You don't ever want to freeze mushrooms whole. They just don't do well. You want to slice them so that the moisture can escape as they freeze. Otherwise, they're just going to kind of get wrinkly and gross. If you cook them first before you freeze them, that stabilizes the protein, and it also kills the enzymes in the mushroom that encourage ripening and eventually rotting. It destroys those enzymes and it stabilizes the protein. So if you freeze partially cooked mushrooms, that's a pretty good way to do it too. But they won't last as long as dried mushrooms. I forgot to egg wash that one. So we're just going to keep doing this just like you would zucchini. It's really no different. And I don't mind getting a lot of egg on there because it really doesn't soak into the mushroom like a liquid would. So they're not going to get soggy from the egg wash. And really, the more you get on there, the better the breading is going to stay on. And I'm going to finish these up and come back. Alright, so I got these frying up in olive oil. I didn't use butter only because Again, there's the egg wash on there to kind of seal the mushroom, but butter does seem to soak in a lot more than olive oil, so I've got just olive oil in there. And they're about ready to flip, so I'm going to have to turn off the camera again. Alright, so these are done. I'm just going to take them out here. They only need about a minute on each side. I do put them on a piece of paper towel though, just for a minute, just to get some of that olive oil out of there. Lost one here. There we go. So anyway, there we are. Breaded puffball mushrooms with a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, and that's dinner time. So that's how you do those. Other mushrooms, you just basically you can saute them or do whatever you want, but these are particularly good for breading. The shape makes it easy, and the consistency of them makes it, a pretty good choice. So I'm going to eat these, and you guys should try them sometime. Okay, so dinner's done, and I have to say it was pretty good, but a word of caution on puffballs. There's a look-alike, but it's really not. Puffballs have no stem and no gills. But the Amantia, which is a very poisonous, very, very poisonous mushroom, when it's in its button stage, smaller than a golf ball, can look like a puffball. As soon as you cut it open, you'll know it's not, because you'll see the stem and you'll see the gills. A puffball is completely consistent throughout, like a marshmallow. Somehow people mistake them every year and end up in the hospital. The Amantia is the destroying angel, which will actually literally melt your liver. It's not a good mushroom to eat, but it's very hard to mistake a puffball for an Amantia or vice versa. Once they get bigger than a golf ball, you'll see the stem. You'll see it on the mushroom. But even when you can't see the stem on the mushroom, if you cut it open, you will see it inside, and you will see gills. So if you have a puffball, it'll just be consistent throughout, and there'll be nothing else in there, and you're good to go. And again, stay away from the black puffballs, but the white puffballs are safe. So give it a try sometime if you find one, and if you don't have the courage, send it to me. Take care.